Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Adam Rosenberg. He does such a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, the Dad's Bet Baseball Podcast. We're going to be chatting with him about how he's playing some of the props now that we are getting down to the nitty-gritty this time of year. Additionally, we're going to be chatting with him a little bit about the murky landscape that we've got with the MLB postseason as well. We're going to be talking about a few teams that maybe have a little bit of value in the futures market, if there are any, and we're going to dive in as well on the front of taking a look at just some obscure markets that a lot of people don't necessarily look to very often with regards to betting that can yield a lot of value. I know that he's been looking at things like the double play market and the player strikeout prop market, so we're going to be diving in on that and so much more in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you'll find one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds whenever and wherever. EdgeBoost ensures that 100% of gambling transactions do indeed get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Your top over team in all of baseball is the Toronto Blue Jays, but things were very underwhelming for them against the Houston Astros. They fall by a count of 3-2 as for the Astros, they get a good start out of Jason Alexander. 7 scoreless innings. Steven Okra from there did give up 2 runs at a third of an inning, but Angel de los Santos, he was unable to hold on inherited runners, but gives up no runs at 2/3 of an inning. And then Bryant Abreu, he gives you a scoreless inning for the Astros. Pair of home runs are how they got the job done. One off of Jose Barrios as Carlos Correa gets his 13th home run season, and Jeff Hoffman, his bad season continues as you had home run number 19 of the campaign for Yenier Diaz. Hoffman, he gives up that home run in his inning of work. Jose Barrios, not necessarily a bad start. 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. You had from there Braden Fisher give you a scoreless inning. Brandon Little comes up big with an out of the bullpen scoreless. Louis Varland 4 outs out of the bullpen, but for the Blue Jays, just not a lot doing here. And your top under team, they continue to be playing a bunch of unders. How about the Cincinnati Reds now up to 55 overs, 84 unders, and 8 pushes? They topple the San Diego Padres by a count of 2-1 as Andrew Abbott, another really nice start. 1 run allowed in 8 innings. That 1 run coming off of a solo home run of the bat of Fernando Tatis Jr., 21st home run season, and Tony Santillan from there, 8 scoreless inning. Nick Pivetta did his part for the Padres, 7 scoreless innings. From there, Kyle Hart gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Adrian Morejon, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, walk 3, and Yuki Matsui got a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless as the Reds do find a way, despite leaving 10 men on base, to be able to get the job done here, back up to 74-72 as they trying to find their way back in the playoff hunt. The Rays are no longer in the playoff hunt. They're below 500 and they lose to the Chicago White Sox. This by a count of 65. White Sox offense has been clicking, by the way, as Mason Montgomery was the catalyst for all the issues for the Tampa Bay Rays. 5 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Griffin Jackson did give you a scoreless inning as the opener. Kevin Kelly gives up a home run in 1 1/3 innings as going deep off of him, Andrew Benintendi. That was a solo shot for his 19th home run season. From there, Joe Rock 2 2/3 innings scoreless, so he rocked. Cole Sulzer 2 scoreless innings. Brian Baker out of the bullpen scoreless, and for the Rays trio bombs in this one, as it was home run number 3 of the campaign for Carson Williams. You had Yandy Diaz get his 23rd home run season, and then Junior Caminero, 42nd home run season. That comes off Brandon Eisert. For Eisert, he does give up that home run. 2 runs in total over the course of an inning. Sean Burke, not long for this game, gives up the other 2 home runs, 3 runs in total in 4 1/3 innings, but bullpen had his back. Mike Vasil, Wilkman Gonzalez, both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Grant Taylor left after 7 pitches to not get an out. Tyler Gilbert, though, he gets an out of the bullpen squirrels, and then Frazier Aller, Jordan Leisurely both give you a squirrel signing to be able to get that one to the window. Also being able to get to the window, the Phillies very easily by a count of 11-3. As for the Mets, this was not what they were looking for out of the bullpen, and Clay Holmes, he didn't have a great start either. 4 runs allowed in 4 innings, but Ryan Helsley, he gives up a home run, 2 runs in total in an inning. His ERA with the Mets well above 6. Ryan Stanek, he gives up his home run in 1 2/3 innings, and Gregory Soto, 4 outs out of the bullpen, he gave up 4 runs. I told you he was going to poop the bed eventually, and Juan Soto does get a home run off of Jose Alvarado. 39th home run season. Alvarado gives up that home run in his inning work, but Christopher Sanchez continues to be great. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Lou Trevino, a run given up in an inning. Orion Kirkring, a squirrel setting, but for the Phils, more than enough offense to get the W, as Max Kepler, his 16th home run season. Bryce Harper, his 25th. For the Milwaukee Brewers, they do fall on the road to the Walker, Texas Rangers. This by a count of 6-3, as for the Rangers, they've been one of your better under teams in all of baseball. 65 overs, 80 unders, and 2 pushes, but they do a nice job of getting to Freddie Peralta, who gives up 5 runs in 5 innings. I think he had given up any runs in his previous 5 starts, as Jake Berger, well, he got a double burger in this one. 15th and 16th home runs of the season. That was delicious. Merrill Kelly does give up a pair of bombs himself. 3 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, going deep for the Brewers. Jackson Trio, 20th home run season. Bryce Terang is 18th, but the bullpen had his back. Kobe Milner, and out of the bullpen scores, Sean Armstrong, Phil Matone combined for the 2 scoreless innings in the 8th and 9th inning, and before that, Robert Garcia, a scoreless inning, and for the Brew Crew, you had Grant Anderson, Rob Zanofsky, both lend a scoreless inning, and out of the bullpen, Eric Fetty Wap gives up an unearned run in his inning of work. For the Angels, they persevere against the Minnesota Twins by a count of 4-3. Jose Urena, on his 4th team of the season, he gives up 1 run in 4 innings against a team that he previously pitched for, the Minnesota Twins, as taking him deep, it was one James Outman. He was out, man. 4th home run season, then Byron Buxton off of Jose Fermin. 31st home run season. Fermin gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in his inning of work, but Andrew Chafin, Luis Garcia, both on the scoreless inning. Reed Demers, Robert Stephenson combined for a scoreless inning, and Kenley Jansen, a scoreless inning of his own. And for Minnesota, Taj Junko, Milton Bradley, he's continuing to play games with us. He gives up 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings, including a home run to Zach Neto, 26th home run season. Then Cole Sands, he makes some pound Sands. 1 2/3 innings, he gives up a run, and for the Twins, they leave 11 men on base, and they go 0 of 7 with men in scoring position. That's a great way to lose a game. And for the Giants, they did not get any runs up on the board until the 8th inning. That's a great way to lose a game. 5-3, the Diamondbacks get the job done, as Eduardo Rodriguez, a very good start in this one. 6 1/3 innings scoreless. The Jake Woodford, 1 1/3 innings, does allow 2 runs, and Andrew Selfrank gives up a run in his far outside the bullpen. Petroldo Perdomo takes Carson Seymour deep, 18th home run season. For Seymour, he got 4 outs, and he gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned. Now, the bullpen from there was solid. Keaton Wing gives up a run in an inning, but Jose Buto, a scoreless inning. JT Brubaker, 2 scoreless innings. Spencer Bivens, 3 2/3 innings scoreless, but damage by then had already been done, and the Red Sox weren't able to do enough damage to the A's. 5-4, Sacramento able to get the job done, as for Peyton Tolley, he was not long for this game. He gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, both of which were solo home runs. Shea Langoliers, 30th home run season. Nick Kurtz, his 30th home run season. From there, Justin Slayton gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning, but Kyle Harrison in long relief, 3 scoreless innings. Steven Matz, a pair of outs of the bullpen scoreless. Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson, both give you a scoreless inning, and Aroldis Chapman. In the 9th inning, he gives up the winning run. Lawrence Butler, a walk-off single that raises Chapman's ERA to a 1.14. He's had an amazing season, and for the Red Sox, they go 2 of 16 with men in scoring position, as the young gun in Mason Barnett gives up 3 runs over the course of 3 2/3 innings, but he did allow 7 hits along the way, so it could have been much worse. Sean Newcomb, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Justin Cerner, 2 scoreless innings. Elvis Alvarado was in the building, and he was taken out after just 1 out, and he gave up a run, but Hogan Harris, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless to be able to get the W for the Athletics, and being able to get the W, the Orioles on Paul Skeens Day, 2-1. The Orioles find a way to persevere, as Skeens, He only went 5 innings, but rock solid here. 8 punch-outs removed after 64 pitches. I have to think that the Pirates are limiting his workload. Kermit Mlodzinski, 2 scoreless innings. Isaac Madsen gives up a run in an inning. Dennis Santana, 8 scoreless inning. And Kyle Nicholas gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning as Dylan Beavers got an RBI single to walk that off. And for the Pirates, Spencer Horwitz gets his 8th home run season. That comes off of Tyler Wells, who pitched Wells. That's the lone mistake that he made, giving up that home run in 6 2/3 innings. From there, Sean Dubin and Kate Stout both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels. Rico Garcia does not throw it over the mountains, but over the plate, as he and Albert Suarez were both able to end a scoreless inning, and the Miami Marlins were able to lend us a win, 8-3. They take down the Washington Nationals as Jake Irvin's rough season continues. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 5 innings. From there, PJ Poulin and Clayton Beater combined for a scoreless inning, but then they were beaten by the fact that Connor Pilkington gave up a run in a third of an inning, and Jackson Rutledge 3 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings before Mason Thompson got the final out of the 8th inning scoreless, as it was Xavier Edwards getting his 3rd home run of the campaign. Erie Perez, 3 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. He's been slipping up a little bit, but bullpen at his back. Ronnie Enriquez, Calvin Fauché both give you a scoreless inning. And Lick Bakar, Kate Gibson, they were both able to end a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels, the Kansas City Royals, looking to stay within shouting distance of the American League wildcard picture. They get a 4-3 win over the Cleveland Guardians as Jonathan Bolin, the opener, gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, including a home run. Going deep for Cleveland, Kyle Manzardo, 26th home run season, but rest of the team at his back as you had Lucas Ursage and Carlos Aceves combined for 3 scoreless innings. Luinder Avila was able to give you 2 scoreless innings. You had a out of the bullpen scoreless from Sammy Long, and Anel Zerpa 1 2/3 innings. He allows a run, but for Kansas City, they go 4 of 10 with men in scoring position. Logan Allen gives up 2 runs in 5 innings. Tim Aaron gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning. Matt Festa, Jacob Junis, Eric Sabrowski all end a scoreless inning, and Hunter Gaddis pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. But by then, the damage had been done, and the Tigers did a whole bunch of damage to the New York Yankees, 11-1. They get the job done and then some in this one, as for Detroit, Captain Jack Flaherty was captain of the Win SS. 5 scoreless innings. Tyler Holton from there and Brendan Hennefy both on a scoreless inning. Troy Melton does give up a home run in his inning of work, lone form of offense for the Yankees. Austin Wells hit it Wells for his 21st home run season. And for Carlos Rodon, this wasn't a bad start. He gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. And then from there, the bullpen completely imploded for the second straight day. Mark Leiter Jr. gets lightered up. He gets an out. He gives up a run. Not as bad as Emilio Duvall, though. He gives up 3 runs in an inning of work, including a home run. Tim Hill, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, gives up a home run. Luke Weaver got 1 out, gave up 3 runs, all of which were earned, and he was taken deep in this one. And it got to the point where you needed a pair of outs from Austin Slater, the backup left fielder, and going deep for Detroit, Riley Green, 33rd home run season. Kerry Carpenter is 24th, and Mr. Colt Keith get his 13th home run of the season. For the Chicago Cubs, they get back-to-back wins over the Atlanta Braves. It's by a count of 3-2. As for the Cubs, they get Carson Kelly to go deep for them. 17th home run season. Jamison Taya, not a lot of length, but it wasn't bad start. 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Taylor Rogers, a scoreless inning. Porter Hoge, a pair of outs of the bullpen squirrels. Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller, and Andrew Kittredge all able to end a scoreless inning. And then on the flip side for Atlanta, Chris Sale, he sold. He did get 9 strikeouts, but allows 7 hits, 3 runs, all of which were earned, including that home run to Mr. Kelly in his 5 innings. From there, Pierce Johnson, Racio Iglesias give you a scoreless inning apiece. Tyler Kinley, Dylan Lee, they both combined for 2 scoreless innings, but for the Atlanta Braves, not enough offense to be able to get this one in. And we are doing this as these final games are just wrapping up. I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Right now, the Cardinals and the Mariners tied up 1-1 in the 9th inning, so we'll see if that tie is broken by the time I get off this podcast. But Michael McGreevy, very solid in this one for the Cardinals. He goes 6 innings, allows a run. Matt Savanson, Jojo Romero from there have given you 2 scoreless innings, and right now with the St. Louis Cardinals, they have stranded 10 men on base, and they have went 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. As for Logan Gilbert, not long for this game, gives up a home run in 4 1/3 innings. Ivan Herrera gets his 15th home run season, actually 4 2/3 innings for Mr. Gilbert. From there, Carlos Vargas, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Gabe Spire, Caleb Ferguson, they both give you a scoreless inning. And Jose Castillo was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And it should be the Dodgers getting the job done here. Currently, they are shutting out the Colorado Rockies in the 8th inning by a count of 4-0. As Blake Snell certainly on his game in this one. 6 scoreless innings, 11 punch-outs. Michael Kopech, Alex Vesia combined for a scoreless 7th inning. And for the Colorado Rockies, you had 4 runs given up in the 2nd inning by Kyle Freeland. He was able to settle down from there, but right now the Colorado Rockies have gotten 2 hits. That's been less than savory, as Freeland gives up 4 runs, but only 1 of which was earned in his 5 2/3 innings. You had Eric Karros' son have an error out there in the field that costed him. Anthony Molina from there has given you 4 outs out of the bullpen on just 11 pitches. So that should be the Dodgers getting the job done, but we shall see there. Total is a little bit TBD, but if you're looking overall for the season, it has still been an underwhelming season. The under is sitting at about a 51.2% hit rate, as you've had 1,069 unders to 1,019 overs, but it looks like those two late games might be going under as well. Favorites on the money line currently hitting at 56.2%, 12-13 and 9.46 on the money line. Again, with those late two games still pending in over the last 7 days, not including the late two games. 38 and 48 is the record for moneyline favorites. Just absolutely atrocious. And the under has really been hitting. 50 unders to 37 overs might be, when it's all said and done, 52 unders to 37 overs. And if you look at the last 30 days in baseball, still been a little bit overwhelming. 197 overs to 187 unders. But certainly those unders are starting to come back through. And for favorites hitting at just 52.3%, 208 and 190 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. And that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we talk about the prop market and how it's being bet by our good friend Adam Rosenberg of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Adam Rosenberg aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know this time of year he's also getting into football as well. It's always a lot of fun out there. He does a great job with the Dad's Bet Baseball Podcast. He does a great job over at Handygraphs and so much more. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Hey Rosenberg all together. And Adam, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
I love it. We only got 6 weeks left of this, including playoffs, and then you won't be able to have me on for college basketball because I know nothing about it. But yeah, I'm excited to talk a little bit of baseball and talk a little bit about my Phillies.
Yep, absolutely. And with regards to what we've got here on the card, it's going to be really interesting the next few weeks, because with the Philadelphia Phillies, I feel like they've got a pretty golden opportunity to be able to make a run in the playoffs, but at the same time, too, losing Zach Wheeler was a big deal for them. They're not going to have Jose Alvarado in that bullpen as well, but it feels like things are getting sorted out there. How do you take a look at this Phillies team moving forward? Because I do think that there's a case for them to be able to make a run, but out of all the teams in Major League Baseball, I think that home field advantage might mean more to them than anyone else.
This team is different than other years, and I say this as a normally jaded Phillies fan. They've been great. They have been pretty solid on the road, especially the last couple of weeks. The schedule's been a little bit soft. The place where they consistently still cannot win seems to be Citi Field. That is, something that they'll ideally have to work out if they meet the Mets later on. But yeah, look, this team has kind of rallied around the fact that they were going to have Wheeler as they were going to move to a 6-man rotation. They obviously picked up Walker Buehler. I kind of trust Cade Hotham, who's the pitching coach. I think he's the best pitching coach in the majors. To an extent, he fixed Taijuan Walker. I think that he's going to be able to do some things with Walker Buehler. And there's a lot of talk now about not necessarily even guys like Aaron Nola stepping up or Christopher Sanchez, but Jesus Luzardo. I mean, this team has been built for depth in pitching. Jesus Luzardo has been quietly the leader in every stat category other than ERA in the clubhouse. So he's someone who I think that this team's going to lean on down the stretch. He's obviously over his innings that he's ever been based on previous injuries. But this team, now they got Trey Turner getting hurt. They've been just kind of rallying around. It's been a real good next man up mentality.
Yep, it has been interesting to take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies, as I think that that's just going to be such a big factor this year as well. The health of so many of these teams, because the Dodgers have been all sorts of banged up. They're finally getting back Max Muncy. They're finally getting back some of their bullpen pieces, but Roki Sasaki has not been able to pitch for them all season long. It's been up, down, all around with regards to so many of those guys as well, and I think that that has a bigger impact this year more than ever before, because there's just been a lot of, shall we say, mediocrity in baseball right now. No team that has really run away with things and formed themselves as a clear favorite.
We talked about this a little bit last night on my pod, but it's almost, we all kind of are hoping that the Rangers maybe make the run because then it's something different. Everybody is sort of already in their places. 6 week in, like the Reds, we thought we were going to have a race for that final wild card and they're DOA coming into September. This Dodgers team, though, it kind of feels like the Dodgers are sort of taking the Los Angeles Clippers mentality, which is load manage your way to the playoffs and then do what you need to do. Last year, a duct-taped Dodgers team won the World Series. That team was literally duct-taped together with sticks. Yamamoto came back. I think they're hoping that stuff can happen with Sasaki. But at the end of the day, everything that comes down to how you're capping the teams that can do it comes down to who wins a 3-game series, who can put out 3 really good pitchers, because the hitters is one thing, but the pitchers is what's most important in terms of winning in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and I'm not sure if you agree with me, but it just feels like it's a really good year to be doing a lot more game-to-game betting rather than looking at the futures, because there is no dominant team, and that means that the future is very, very tight. You're not going to get any super-duper long shots this year unless if you think that a team from outside the playoffs right now is going to be able to make a run and make it all the way to the World Series, and I do think that this just rewards taking a look at things a little bit more of a game in and game out basis, because I do think that it is very hard to tell which of these teams is going to be in peak form in October, because really all these teams have so many flaws that have had so many ups and downs this year.
Like you said, there's just a lot of it's not even mediocrity. There's the teams that we think can do it, and I think that that's maybe only the Brewers, the Phillies, maybe the Tigers. They're willing to play small
Obviously
ball.
the Dodgers, yep.
Yeah, well, and the Dodgers, yeah. And then everybody else. I put a lot of stock into a lot of short positions early in the season. Paul Skeens, Cy Young. I came on here. I said, as long as he's breathing, he's going to be getting it. He seems to still be breathing. I think that that's going to end up happening. If something didn't, I got Christopher Sanchez too. So we'll see about that. But with any of the team futures, the fun bet that I think there is to make is take whoever you think is going to be the 6th seed and take them to make the LCS of that league. That is a good bet to take because you are sort of giving yourself the natural last team in, going to make a run type of thing. We saw this with the Diamondbacks. We saw this with the Mets. A nice way to do it. It happens a lot more in the NL. The Tigers did a little bit of it last year. It happens a lot more in the NL, but it's a good way to, if you want to squeeze a little bit of future value. But the only things I'm playing right now are combinations and exactas on the teams that we know that are in, and so-and-so over so-and-so in World Series, or so-and-so versus so-and-so in the LCS.
I think that that's a good way of going about it, because that gives you a lot more plus money, because as of right now, if you're betting on a team to be able to win the World Series, you might be able to get a little bit more if you bet series to series, game to game when you get into the postseason. So no need to tie up your money this much, and gives you many more options when we do get to October, as Adam Rosenberg, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And Adam, in terms of the props that you're looking to play, do things change up a little bit more now that you're in September? Because I know you've been taking a look at a lot of things, like the double play prop market is one that you've come onto this podcast, you've talked about quite a bit. You're not as much of one for like home runs and things of that nature, but is there anything that you might be looking to play a little bit more here in September and the postseason that maybe you didn't a little bit earlier in the season?
Well, I got to remember what I was doing last time I was here. Was I still into batter strikeouts? I'm still very
I think so, yes.
All right, well, I'm very into batter strikeouts. There's actually data back proof that swinging percentages get worse when you get to September. Been looking at those a lot. I've also just been looking at over-earned runs. Because for these teams that are not making the playoffs, good example, Adam Mazur pitched. He cashed his over-earned runs in the first inning. A lot of these guys, they're just putting them out there to pitch 5 or 6. They're not a playoff race. The Marlins don't care. They're just trying to get this guy some innings. I'm playing a lot of those over-earned runs because the longer some of these bad pitchers are in there, much more easily it is that they can net that. So over-earned runs has been really good to me. Still playing the strikeouts and a lot of the pitcher walk props. When I get to the playoffs, what's going to end up happening for me is that I'm going to probably change things to be a little more strategic, a bit more exact plate appearances. Managers tend to tinker. They tend to take guys out after one at bat. God forbid the Rangers make the playoffs. Bruce Bochy is very famous for this, of changing guys multiple times in the game in terms of game management. There'll be a lot of that because you're going to get a lot more guys that are going to get intentionally walked to get to a guy who's cold, etc. So, how I'm approaching it right now is knowing that there's going to be bad pitchers that are probably left in for a little bit longer, simply so they can get some work.
Yeah, and I do think that that's a great approach to be taking as well, because some guys, they're going to be able to get a little bit more work, and then obviously with a lot of these younger guys, they are going to have their innings cut down a little bit more as well. So I think that that's something very valuable to be taking a look at. And how big is that in terms of your betting narrative with regards to September? Because I do think that that is so interesting to be taking a look at innings limits, teams that perhaps have locked up a playoff spot like the Philadelphia Phillies in the next few weeks with the way that they've run and hit with the NL East. I think we could see this with the Brewers. Perhaps they do rest a few guys trying to be able to get all primed up in the postseason, though, with this season as well, with things so tight. I think that there might be a little bit less rest for so many of these teams because a lot of these races are very interesting. And with a lot of these races as well, even though a team might have the actual playoff spot locked up, they might not have that bye locked up too.
The first thing I'm looking at now when I'm looking at a pitcher on a team that matters, especially on any team whatsoever, I'm looking at what their innings were last year. I can tell you this blanket statement, guys on the Rays, all those pitchers are at their innings limits. So I'm taking a lot of outs unders there with a lot of these guys, with the exception of Seymour. I'm taking a lot of outs unders like Rasmussen, a lot of these guys. 150s, they're cut off. They're not making the playoffs. They got to be doing that. With the Tigers moved Chris Paddock to the bullpen. Part of that was performance. Part of that was also because he's pitched the most innings that he's had since 2019. A lot of these guys you have to look at, where are you compared to last year? Chris Sanchez on the Phillies, he's got room to work with. Aaron Nola, low innings in pitching. It's one of the reasons why I like the Dodgers, because you look at Glasnow, you look at Yamamoto, you look at Snell. The Glasnow and Snell alone, unbelievably low innings this year because they were hurt. So that gives them a really good opportunity to just kind of run with it and get these guys that are kind of coming into what would normally be their third month of the season, 6 months into the season.
Yep, and I think that that is so good to be taking a look at this time of year as well. And I do think that it is going to be a really interesting dynamic to be gauging here for the rest of the season, as Adam Rosenberg, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And then is there a few teams or maybe even a few players that you've been betting their props on and you're just feeling bullish/bearish about them right now? Because I mentioned it a little bit before. It's been a very streaky season and it just feels like things have really, for lack of a better term, come and go with some of these players and some of these teams as far as the season. But anything right now that has just been really hitting, and any team, any player in particular that you've been able to catch with over the last few weeks?
Colton Cowser K's. Those are a wagon. He should probably change the spelling of his name to be with K's, not C's. That is probably the most profitable bet that I have ever seen in my history of betting baseball. It is an automatic 2Ks every game at plus money. James Wood was doing that for us in July. He's stopped doing that. Freddie Freeman's been on fire. Freddie Freeman bases has been a really good bet for me. Junior Caminero is another one of those guys who just continues to hit the ball really well. Then everything else is kind of game by game, but those two stand out on the offensive and then on the futility standpoint. Just every single day I find them to be in my card.
Oh, absolutely. I do think that it's a lot of fun to be taking a look at. And I want to close it up with this. Is there a team or two that, because we've talked about it, things are so murky out there in baseball right now, but is there a team or two that you do think might be able to make a little bit of a run and might be able to catch a little bit of fire here in September, because things have just been so herky-jerky, things have been so up and down, but is there one or two teams that you're identifying that you just feel like in general might have a little bit of value the next few weeks?
So this Texas Rangers team that I can't quit. This Texas Rangers team all season, this Texas Rangers team has had some of the best pitching all season. They're going to have a low innings DeGrom, and suddenly they're hitting without Corey Seager. It blows my mind. That team's got a lot of value on them. It's been a lot of fun to fade this Dodgers team. This Brewers team is also, I've been starting to fade them. I think they peaked in August. This Reds team, while they're a little bit DOA for the playoff race, given that they're young and given the type of coach that they have, I expect there to be a little bit of value on them. You're looking at bad teams that have value on them. The Chicago White Sox don't strike out anymore like they used to, and that's a really young core team. Colson Montgomery has been fantastic. Some of these teams are just fun teams to bet on because they're fun teams to watch again, and that would definitely be one of them.
Absolutely, with the Chicago White Sox actually in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of their run production ever since the All-Star break, so that's been good. But what else is amazing is getting you on this show, Adam, as I know that you're doing a great job handicapping baseball. I know that many people drop out of baseball once football starts. You're like us. You're handicapping this all the way through, and I know you're still in the interim doing football. You're getting set for a little bit of everything, so let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Dad's Bet Baseball is now Dad's Bet Baseball and football. It's on twice a week on Monday. Yeah, Mondays and Wednesdays. We have a football show, and then we have a baseball show. You can obviously catch me on SGPN, Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I co-host the MLB Prop Show on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then on Thursdays is the NFL Prop Show, myself and Scott Reichel. That's mostly where you can catch me. I'm at Hey Rosenberg on all the platforms. You can find me being abrasive on Twitter.
Absolutely. And Adam, he is a man about town as well. He's doing a great job reaching out to everyone. He does such an amazing job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. So big thanks, Adam, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous, but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Adam Rosenberg. He does such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. He does the Dad's Bet Baseball and the Dad's Bet Football Podcast. Does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and so much more. So a big thanks to our good friend Adam for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, how about if we do start with that first game of 901-902 on the board? The Washington Nationals are on the road against the Miami Marlins as Ryan Weathers looks to weathers the storm for Miami, and Brad Lord says, "Oh Lord," to getting another start. Total on this game is 8.5 over and under, anywhere between -105 to a -115. Between -134 to a -150 is that number on Miami. Between +116 to a +123 is that number on the Washington Nationals, and I am going to be in on the Miami Marlins. I set the Marlins at a -163. For Brad Lord, he just has had quite a bit of struggle when he has been a starter rather than a bullpen piece, as he has went through about half the season as a starter, half the season coming out of the bullpen. And for Brad Lord, overall for the season, a 4.20 ERA, less than a home run allowed per 9 innings, but really doesn't get a lot of swings and misses, only about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he has given up at least 4 runs with 3 out of his last 4 starts. 4.97 ERA as a starter compared to a 2.79 ERA coming out of the bullpen. Now, you're always rolling the dice with guys coming off the injury list. For Ryan Weathers, this is going to be his first start since June 7th, so that's going to be about 3 months, but he looked good in his minor league rehab appearances. He made 5 in total. He had a 2 ERA, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and when he's been at the big league level this year, about a 3.27 ERA, so pretty rock solid there. Does have to go up against a Washington Nationals team that has been actually quite a bit better with their offense when they've been away from home rather than at home, averaging fewer than 4 runs per game at home, more like 4.6 runs per game in their road games, as you've got someone like CJ Abrams who's got 17 home runs this year, hitting about a 270, but 14 of those home runs have come on the road. James Wood has given you good wood, about a 350 on base, 27 home runs, and Josh Bell since the beginning of the month of July, hitting well above a 250. He's been able to improve, but a lot of these younger guys just have not been able to give you too much. Andres Shapiro, Dylan Cruz, Robert Hassel. These are all guys give you less than a 280 on base with really not a lot of power, though Dallin Lyle has been able to about a 280 for this team. And for the Miami Marlins, they're still dealing with the injury to Kyle Stowers. Augustin Ramirez was out yesterday as well, so that meant that they had one guy on the roster in Otto Lopez that was in the starting lineup with more than 7 home runs, so not a lot of firepower there. And I mean, you do have quite a few guys in the neighborhood neighborhood of about a 248 to a 260 with Lopez, Roberto Hernandez, Troy Johnson. These are guys that are able to move the line. Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 340 on base. And then at the top, Xavier Edwards, he's nice at being able to give you 24 stolen bases, hitting about a 280. Jacob Marcy, not a ton of power, but he's hitting about a 320. And for the Nationals, also dead last in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Just not great for these guys, to say the least. Connor Pilkington is actually one of their better relievers with about a 4.5 ERA. And then you've got the likes of Orlando Robalta, Jackson Rutledge, Onkuzi Ogasawara, Clayton Beater, all these guys above a 4.80 ERA. And for the Miami Marlins, been up, down, all around with regards to this bullpen, but have a lot of guys that are able to give you multiple innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips, Cade Gibson. These are guys that are able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA in case of others can't give you a lot of length. So I did set my total here at an 8.3. At the 8.5, I like the under, and with the Marlins, want to go up to a minus 162 on that money line. 903, 904 on the betting board. It is the Metropolitans, and they're on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils, and David Peterson, great name, is on the bump for the Mets. The total on this game is anywhere between 8 to 8.5. On the 8.5, under is minus 115, over is minus 105. On the 8, the over is minus 120. The under is even with the Phils are between minus 142 to minus 150 favorites, plus 120 to plus 125. That number on the Mets, and I'm going to be willing to lay that Phillies money line, willing to go up to a minus 150 with them. Jesus Luzardo comes in relatively good form. 3 runs or fewer, give it up in 7 out of his last 8 starts. And for Jesus Luzardo, still doing for a lot of positivity. A 4.01 ERA, but fielding dependent of a 3.01, 10.6 strikeouts to only 0.8 home runs, allowed per 9 innings. So I love what I'm seeing there. And Peterson has a great name, by the way. That said, he has been giving up just a little bit too much contact. 8 strikeouts, so about 3.4 walks per 9 innings. Big reason why he's got the 3.72 ERA. Has struggled recently. Has only went 7+ innings in his last 2 starts, giving up 12 runs. Now overall 3.72 ERA. He's been solid, and it's only giving up a half home run per 9 innings. So he's done a great job in terms of being able to keep the ball in the yard, but and this is a Mets bullpen that is going the wrong way. Even with Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers being able to give you some really good innings since they picked him up, it's been a case where Ryan Helsley has been absolutely terrible. We have seen Reed Garrett regress a little bit. Ryan Stanek has been a total hot mess for this team as well. And for the Mets, the offense has been able to get going. Brandon Nimmo has been able to give you 22 bombs. Francisco Lindor, 26. And both of these guys hitting just below a 265. You've had Starling Marte do a nice job finding a way to be able to move line. Not a ton of power, but hitting a 270. Pete Alonso, he's been able to supply about a 345 on base with 33 home runs, and then Juan Soto. I know a lot of people like to poop on him, but 38 home runs and a 400 on base is a pretty solid season in my opinion. Now, the bottom of the fold, they had someone like an Jose Siri, Luanel Acuna. These guys have been a little bit rough. The catcher spot has been an issue, but they got back Francisco Alvarez yesterday, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, it's a case where Kyle Schwarber is just absolutely carrying this team. 50 home runs. He's been able to supply a 370 on base. Bryce Harper is the only other guy on the roster that's really been able to give you above 16 home runs. He's up to 24 bombs. He's been able to supply about a 350 on base. So Harrison Bader, 16 home runs, very silently has been able to hit 280, but now they're dealing with the injury to Trey Turner, so that does impact them. Alec Bohm is at the injured list as well, so now they're trying to mix and match a little bit in the infield. Bryson Stott has had his ups and downs. Otto Kemp is a guy that I actually think has a bit of upside, but hasn't necessarily shown that this far this season. But the Phillies bullpen are looking much better now that Jordan Romano's on the injured list. You've had Matt Strahm, Ryan Kerkering, Jose Alvarado, Yohan Duran, all be able to give you a sub 325 ERA, and David Robertson, the Angels wonder, has been able to give you some good innings as well. So I do think that this is going to be a relatively lower scoring game. I did set my total at 8.2. Personally, I would rather take an 8.5 under rather than an 8 over, even with the Phillies number 1 in the National League in terms of run scoring at home with about 5.3 runs per game. So do like that 8.5 under, and with the Phillies willing to go up to a minus 149 on that money line. 905, 906 on the betting board. It is the Rockies on the road against the Slam Diego Padres. Randy Vasquez is on the bump for the Pods, and McCade Brown is on the bump for Colorado. Colorado, a size underdog, anywhere between plus 194 to a plus 205. And minus 235 to minus 250 is that number on Slam Diego, and 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. That initial opener with regards to run line is the Padres minus 115 on the run line. Give me that run line. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 139. McCade Brown just should not be at the big league level right now. My gosh. He has made 3 starts thus far after he bypassed the AAA level to the tune of a 12.54 ERA. Like, what are we doing here if you're the Colorado Rockies? Like, I understand that they don't have great options, but I would have to think that they had anything better. Like, man, this has not been great. And for Randy Vasquez, 391 ERA, doing for a lot of regression, 518 fielding dependent, 4.8 strikeouts, a 3.8 walks per 9 innings, gives up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, very much benefits from playing in a pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in San Diego. Now he's going to benefit in this one because he goes up against a Rockies team that is dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of road on base percentage and in terms of just scoring overall on the road. But they do have Hunter Goodman, who's been a very good man for the team thus far this season. 30 home runs, and I believe that 18 or 19 of them have come on the road. So he's actually been able to do a solid job of excelling there. He is pretty much the only guy on the roster who's been able to excel on the road thus far this season, as you've got a lot of guys like Mickey Moniak, Jordan Beck, Warming Venables, dealt with a little bit of injury, Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle, all hitting at 215 or lower when they've been on the road. Tyler Freeman's been able to hit a little bit when he has been on the road, but man, it's been very rough for a lot of these guys. And then on the flip side for the San Diego Padres, not a lot of power with this team. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis, but they find a way to be able to move the line. And you do have Ramon Laureano along Fernando Tatis Jr., both with 20-plus home runs apiece. Both have been able to give you above a 360 on base for Laureano. That also dates back to his time with Baltimore. Manny Machado leading the way in terms of power department, 23 home runs, sitting at 275. Gavin Sheets has been able to give you 19 bombs, sitting about at 270. Xander Bogaerts has dealt with injuries, so that's been a little bit of an issue for this team, but you've been able to have Jake Cronenworth supply about a 365 on base. The catcher spot has been solved with having Freddie Fermin do a nice job being able to get on base, and the San Diego Padres team is number one in all baseball in terms of their bullpen ERA. Just so many great options like David Morgan, Jason Adam, Adrian Morejon, Mason Miller, all these guys who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA thus far this season. Robert Suarez could be a little bit up and down, especially when he's on in a closer's role, but still has been relatively reliable for the team. And Colorado Rockies continue to be a bottom 3 unit with regards to their bullpen ERA, as you've had Victor Vodnik be able to give you some good innings along Jimmy Herget, both of these guys a sub 3.5 ERA, and then Jaden Hill has been able to give you closer about a 3.9 ERA, but man, you've got a lot of guys like Anel Shavili, Ryan Rollison, Nick Anderson posting up an ERA above a 6, and I do think that the Padres are going to be able to get to Mr. McKay Brown relatively hard, semi-solid at an 8.8, so like the over and the Padres on the run line. 907, 908 on the card. The Rays are on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Shane Smith is on the bump for the Southsiders. Ian Seymour goes for the Rays, and this is a game that is presently seeing the Rays as about a minus 140 to a minus 150 favorite. In that neighborhood of a plus 120 to a plus 125 is that number on the Southsiders. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. On the 8, over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and I'm willing to dive in on the Rays on the money line if you're looking to lay a run half. Right now, that's right around about a plus 120 or so. I was willing to take a plus 115 or better, but would rather play it safe because I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game. I did set my total at 7.9, so even if you're getting a flat 8, I'm in on the under, and I'm just a believer in Ian Seymour. Now, for Ian Seymour, he has been the deficitary of a lot of unearned runs over his last few starts, as for Seymour, they actually utilized an opener from in his last start, so that's something that you do want to be noting if you're going with listed pitcher here. But that said, his last 3 appearances as either a starter or a bulk guy, 9 runs allowed across 14 innings, but only 2 of which were earned, and Seymour has been a strikeout artist. 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings between his time as a starter and also a reliever. He's only been giving up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, 2.89 ERA. Does face off against a White Sox team that really doesn't strike out a lot. They've been one of the best teams in terms of not striking out, and look at what this White Sox team has done ever since the All-Star break. They've actually been a top 7 offense in terms of run scoring. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be long-lasting, but these are young guys that are actually still giving you an effort. Lennon Sosa has been able for about a 265, 270. He's up to 20 home runs this season. They've got Miguel Vargas on the injured list, but Andrew Benintendi along Colson Montgomery, 18 home runs apiece, with Benintendi hitting about a 250. Luis Roberto has been rough this year, less than a 300 on base with 14 home runs, and I mean, someone like Michael A. Taylor hitting at the Mendoza line of 200 has not been great, but Mike Tauchman about a 360 on base. The catcher spot has been really good. Edgar Quiero and Kyle Teal both hitting above a 280. Not a ton of power out of these guys, but I mean, that's been nice to see. This has been a White Sox bullpen that has been shaky to say the least. You've got Mike Facil's been a nice long guy, give you about a 255 ERA. Steven Wilson has been able to give you about a 3 ERA as well, but you do have a lot of guys like Tyler Alexander, Tyler Gilbert, so both of the Tylers, Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure, who are all posting up an ERA above a 385, so that's been a tad bit of an issue. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been able to find their footing with regards to their bullpen since the beginning of the month of July, a top 9 bullpen in terms of ERA. Brian Baker, Griffin Jackson was the opener yesterday, have had their issues, but you've been able to get some good innings out of both Garrett Clevenger, coupled with as well Pete Fairbanks, both of these guys supplying a sub-3.25 ERA. In the small amount that we've seen Connor Siebold as a long guy, he's been relatively solid as well. I know that they're probably going to be looking to a little bit more Joe Rock moving forward as well. He's a guy that I think has some upside. And for the Rays, this offense is in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, though they have slipped to the bottom 10 post All-Star break. Junior Caminero still giving you 41 home runs, though, hitting about a 260, doesn't draw a lot of walks. Yandy Diaz draws a few more, though, 350 on base, 22 home runs. Brandon Lau gets loud, 28 bombs. He's been able to about a 260. Now, the shortstop spot with Taylor Walls and company has been an issue, but I mean, out there in the outfield, you've got Jake Magnum giving you 23 stolen bags and a 295 average. Chandler Simpson, 39 stolen bags. He's been able to about a 290 as well. So, interesting circumstance here with the Rays. I'm willing to go up to a minus 148 on the money line. I'm willing to lay it there, and I'm going to be in on the under because I do think that Shane Smith has a little bit of upside as well. I recognize that the walks have been a little bit high with Shane Smith. He's been giving up in that neighborhood of about 3.7 walks per 9 innings, but 8.5 strikeouts to 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings, a combined 6 earned runs allowed in his last 3 starts. So in on the under to go along that Rays money line. Down to 9-9-10 on the betting board. It is the Astros, and they're facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Christian Javier is on the bump for the Astros, and Kevin Gausman goes for Toronto. Toronto is a favorite of between minus 155 to a minus 162, plus 128 to a plus 140 is that number on Houston, and 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. To lay run half right now with Toronto, I'm right now seeing that run line price at a plus 135, and this would be a circumstance where I would be willing to go in on it. Pretty much a plus 130 or greater was my buy point there. And when it comes to Christian Javier, just not a guy that I have a lot of faith in as of right now, just because with Christian Javier, it's been a case where things have been up, down, all around from this far this season, and it really just comes back to the command with Christian Javier. With Christian Javier, his strikeout stuff seems to be returning to him, and that was something that was absent before he went on the injured list last season, but he has been giving up since he returned to the rotation for 5 starts in the neighborhood about 5.3 walks per 9 innings. He's been able to keep the ball in the yard, give it up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, 2 home runs allowed in 20 and a third innings, but that in lies the problem as well. He has only won 20 and a third innings in his 5 starts as far this season, and has filled more than 5 innings only once thus far. And for Christian Javier, he's backed up by a bullpen that overall for the season has been one of the better ones in the big leagues. The Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, these guys have all been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. If you look at the overall season numbers, the Astros are 9th in terms of bullpen ERA, but Josh Hader and Bennett Sosa are currently on the injured list. That certainly hurts the team, and now they've got Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen, and that's not great to say the least. And for Houston, this has just been an offense that has been mediocre ever since the All-Star break. As a matter of fact, they've been in the bottom 4 of the big leagues in terms of a run scoring ever since the All-Star break. You do have Jose Altuve giving you the 24 bombs. His batting average has slipped a little bit recently down to about a 265, but still has been solid. Christian Walker, Yenier Diaz, they need to give you a better on base. Diaz actually hits for a 254 average, but 18 home runs at a 285 on base. You need to up that on base percentage. Walker, 297 on base, 22 home runs. They're missing Isaac Paredes badly, but Victor Caratini's been able to about a 270. Jake Myers, I know that he's dealt with a little bit of injury as well, but he's hitting above a 300. He's good to go. And Yordan Alvarez, ever since coming off the injured list, has been able to breathe a little bit of life into this team as well. Since coming off of the injured list, he's been able to hit well above a 400, actually. It's been a very, very small sample size, but you'll take that 3 home runs in his first 45 at-bats, so that does help this offense a little bit. And for the Blue Jays, they're averaging over 5.1 runs per game at home. They are right there towards the top of the American League with the New York Yankees in terms of their run creation, as it's been all about George Springer, nearly a 395 on base with 28 home runs. Vlad Guerrero Jr., 23 bombs. He's been able to give you 390 on base. Bo Bichette hits for above a 300. He's up to 18 home runs. You don't get a lot of average out of Dalton Varsho, but he's hitting a home run every less than 11 at-bats. 18 home runs and 190 at-bats thus far this season. Even someone like an early Clement is hitting a 275. Joey Looper Fido in a small sample size we got to start yesterday. He's hitting above a 335. The big issue that you got with the Blue Jays is post All-Star break, they've been in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So these guys who have been overall relatively rock solid this season, like Uriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher, along with Brandon Little, who have been able to supply a sub 335 ERA thus far this season. They've really toiled bold recently, and Jeff Hoffman has just had a season to forget, to say the least. But I mean, a lot of these guys that have been there, rock solid guys, post All-Star break, have been rough ever since they picked up Louis Varland. He's been posting up an ERA that is well above a 5 with the team. So Anthony Dominguez is someone that's not necessarily too trustworthy either. So a very interesting circumstance here. It is one where I did set the Blue Jays at a minus 152 on the money line, but again, looking at the run line, as long as I'm getting hitting that plus 130, plus 135 or so, I'm going to be willing to dive in, and I'm in on the under. I did set my total at an 8.3. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. It is the Tigers on the road against the Yankees. We do know that Cam Schlittler is going to be getting the start for the Yankees, and as of right now, it's a little to be determined on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. Nobody has a number up on this game right now, but I've got my handicap. The CBS Sports projection was Sawyer Gibson Long getting the start for the Tigers, and if that is the case, I set the Yankees at a minus 167 on the money line, willing to go up to a minus 166 there, or plus 115 or better would be looking at that run line, plus 168 or higher would be in on the Tigers, and then made a total of a 9.3, a 9 or less. I'm going to be in on the over, a 9.5 or higher, the under, and with Cam Schlittler, ever since he has come up to the big league level, he has been able to do himself a very, very nice job in terms of being able to get swings and misses. For Schlittler, he does give up a little bit more hard contact than what I would like, but that said, he's been able to control that over the last few games, as he has not given up a home run in any of his last 5 starts. His first few starts were a little bit shaky, but he has made 10 starts at the big league level. His start against Toronto last time out, that was the first time they gave up more than 3 earned runs. Overall, 3.24 ERA, 3.96 fielding dependent, with getting 10.1 strikeouts to 4 walks per 9 innings, and if you do indeed get Mr. Gibson Long in some form or capacity, they might throw an opener for him. He was very solid prior to missing pretty much a 2024 campaign due to injury, but it's been a small sample size for him, 7 total appearances, 5.59 ERA. His strikeout stuff has been down, but he's only been giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings. Has just given up a lot of contact in general. His last appearance against the New York Mets about a week and a half ago, he got lit up for 6 runs over the course of 4 innings, was a big time ERA booster for him. You'll look at what he's been able to do at the minor league level thus far this season, as that's where he has spent quite a bit of his time. 3.63 ERA, and he gave up at the minor league level 1 home run in 39 2/3 innings, but have to think that he's probably not going to give you much more than 4 or 5 innings, and this is the Tigers bullpen that's in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, and with having to have Kyle Finnegan hit the injury list, who's been quite good ever since they picked him up, that's a little bit of an issue. Brian Herter has been dealing with injury as well. Now, since they picked up Rafael Montero, he's been solid in a Tigers uniform and a Tigers uniform only. He, Bailey Horn, Troy Melton, these guys have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA, so that's been solid, but you still have had someone like a Tyler Holton post up an ERA above a 350, another bulk guy in Kadir Montero. Well, he's been Montero Bull. That's not been amazing to say the least, and Tommy Kahnle is just having an absolutely terrible season, but that's it for the Tigers. They're a top 7 offense in terms of a run creation, and you just have a lot of guys sitting in the neighborhood of about a 252 to 270. Pretty much all but 2 of the guys in the lineup are doing that. One of the guys that you typically see is Spencer Torkelson, only about a 235, but 28 bombs, 330 on base, and then Riley Green is for a 270, 32 home runs. Kerry Carpenter, 23 bombs, hitting about a 255. Cole Keith down to hitting about a 251, but 330 on base. Zach McKinstry is moving the line. He's been able to give you about a 340 on base, so he is a little bit more of a platoon guy. He's been dealing with a little bit of a back issue, so do want to be noting that. And for the New York Yankees, on any given night, this team could trot out there a lineup where every single guy in the starting lineup has at least 19 home runs. They've got that sort of power. Now, they can be a little bit all or nothing, but you've got guys getting on base, like Aaron Judge, obviously, is your main one, 442 on base, 44 home runs, but Cody Bellinger hitting a 275 with 28 home runs. Trent Grisham has like 14 home runs since the All-Star break. He's been able to give you above a 340 on base. Ben Rice has been able to give you 335 on base. He's up to 23 home runs. Now, the 2 guys that are issues are Anthony Volpe along with Austin Wells, 19 and 20 home runs apiece, but Volpe has been out of the lineup the last few days for Jared Calabreo, who doesn't give you a lot of average, but he gives you a lot of stolen bags, and he was the lone guy in the lineup yesterday, hitting for fewer than 19 home runs. Now, here's the issue for the Yankees. They are a bottom 5 bullpen in terms of ERA ever since the All-Star break, as you've had some just absolutely awful performances recently. Devin Williams has been awful all season long, but Fernando Cruz is starting to toilet bowl. Camilo Duvall, ever since he got to New York, the bright lights have seen his ERA go to a 4.97 when he's been with New York. David Bednar has been relatively solid. Luke Weaver seems to be fighting it as well. And Tim Hill, sub 3.25 ERA, some interesting circumstance here. 9 or less, I'm in on the over 9.5 or higher, the under for the Yankees, plus 115 or better. Looking at that run line, plus 168 or better. The Tigers on the money line. 9.13, 9.14 on the card. The Guardians are playing us to the Kansas City Royals. Stephen Kolek is on the bump for the Royals. Gavin Williams goes for the Guardians, and the Guardians are a favorite of between minus 130 to minus 144, and between plus 110 to a plus 122 is that number on the Royals. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. On the 7.5, over is minus -120, and the under is even. Semi-total at 7.9. Personally, I would rather have a 7.5 over rather than an 8 under, and if you're looking to lay a run half right now with the Cleveland Guardians, you're going to be getting that right now at a +160, and I would be looking there. I was only willing to go up to a -128 on the money line, but being able to get that big of a run line, I do think that when it's all said and done, because I'm seeing some -130s out there for Cleveland, I think I could get a -128, but if I absolutely had to play it right now, I'd be looking at the Guardians on the run line, but do anticipate in some form of capacity, most likely a money line when this comes down a little bit more. Good to be in on the Gardos. Stephen Kolek has been relatively solid for the both Royals and the San Diego Padres as he began the season with the Padres, but I think that he's doing for a little bit of regression. 3.88 ERA, 4.01 fielding independent, just not getting a lot of swings and misses. Now he's kept the ball in the yard, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, but pitches to a lot of contact, only 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Stephen Kolek, he's actually given up 2 runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts, so you do love to see that. He's been rock solid since joining the Kansas City Royals. And for Gavin Williams, he has that 3.17 ERA, but it's backed up by 4.59 fielding independent. The 4.5 walks per 9 innings are a little bit unsightly. He's given up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but has been rock solid recently. A combined 5 runs allowed across his last 4 starts, and gets a face-off against a Royals team that is towards the bottom of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. You do have Vinny Pasquantino coming alive for 29 home runs. He's 1 RBI shy of 100. That was going into the day on Wednesday, and the team does get back Bobby Witt Jr. after he was missing for a few days due to injury. 34 stolen bags, 350 on base, 21 home runs, and then Salvador Perez, 25 home runs. But the bottom of the lineup with the likes of Jack Caglione, Randall Grichuk, Michael Massey, these guys hitting at 230 or lower that just aren't giving you a ton of power. That's a bit of an issue, though. Miguel Garcia has been able to give you above a 340 on base, 16 home runs, and he's swiping some bags. And then for the Guardians, man, you just need to get more out of this lineup. Jose Ramirez has been great, hitting for about a 350 on base, 28 home runs. Stephen Kwan at the top, hitting about a 275, but then you got the likes of Daniel Schneemann, Bo Naylor, CJ Kayfus, David Fry, so many guys that are hitting below a 225. John Kenzie Noel, throw him in there as well. So you just have a cavalcade of different guys not getting the job done, but what has been getting the job done for the Guardians is having a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now they are dealing with the injury to Nick Enright, and I recognize that Cade Smith has been a little bit up down all around, but Eric Zabrowski, Jacob Junis, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. The long guy and Kobe Allard has been pretty solid, and the Royals overall this season have been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. They had to have Steven Cruz hit the injury list, but Carlos Estevez, Lucas Erceg, both of these guys give you a sub-3 ERA. John Schreiber's been acting up a little bit recently. His ERA has went up to about a 3.5, and Daniel Lynch has had a few less than savory performances, but all in all has been relatively solid, and I do think that this is going to be a relatively well-pitched game, but if we get down to a 7.5, I think that that's just a scotch too low, and with the Guardians, if I had to play it right now, like I said, I would take that plus 160 run line. I think when it's all said and done, I do get that money line of a minus 128 or better. So looking Guardians, and I'm looking at that 7.5 over. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. It is the Mariners, and they play us to the LA Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos, and right now it is all to be determined on the bump for the Mariners. So this is a game that is presently off the board. I set my handicap to where I would need at least a plus 150 to take shot on the Angels. Minus 148 or better, we'll be looking at the Mariners, assuming that it's Bryce Miller, and then set a total to where a 7.5 or less. I'm in on the over 8 or higher to the under, and would need at least a plus 142 to be able to take a shot on the Mariners on the run line. As strange as it is, Jose Soriano has been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been away from home rather than when he has been at home. For Jose Soriano has been very good at being able to keep the ball in the yard, but not like some sort of master of deception, and he does give out a few too many free passes. Right now, 8.1 strikeouts and 4 walks per 9 innings, but overall for the season, it's only given up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. But again, at home, he's posting up a 5.90 ERA, giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, which doesn't sound like a ton, but on the road, that goes down to about 0.43 home runs per 9 innings with a 2.47 ERA. And for Bryce Miller, he's had extreme home and road splits throughout his career as well. Overall for the season, it's been a rough one. He's dealt with injury, 5.53 ERA, giving up 1.5 home runs, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. But for Miller, if you date it back to his rookie season, because this year has been a little bit of a lost cause where he's struggled a bit of everywhere, but I mean, at home, he's been throughout his career posting up a 3.11 ERA, and at home, he gives up in that neighborhood about 1 home run per 9 innings. On the road, that goes up to about 1.45 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.76 ERA. And For Miller, he is backed up by a pretty rock-solid bullpen where you've got Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Bazardo being able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Gabe Spire has been solid as well. And then for the LA Angels, this bullpen hasn't been quite as bad ever since the first few months of the season. You've got Brock and Roll Burke along Kenley Jansen give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but the likes of Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyrian, Jose Fermin, you still have a lot of guys posting up a above 3.75 ERA. Robert Stevenson has been acting up a little bit as well, and this is an all-or-nothing LA Angels lineup to where they're in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage, top 5 in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis, as Zach Neto's up to 26 home runs. He's done a solid job hitting at 260 for the team, but even Mike Trout, he's hitting for a 234 this season, albeit with a 369 on base. He's been with 20 home runs. Taylor Ward, he's up to 30-plus bombs, but he's hitting at 225. Joe Adell, he's starting to set fire to the rain. 35 bombs. He's actually been able to give you 300 on base, but the likes of Edwaldo Peraza, they've been trotting out there a few young guys like Logan Davison, Bryce Tessuto, that at the bottom of the lineup, they've been hitting below a 215. Nico has been out there. I can't remember his last name, but I know his first name is Nico. He has not been able to give you anything as well. And then on the other end for the Seattle Mariners, just a whole bunch of power. Now, the offense is obviously much better away from home rather than at home because Seattle's one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks they're going to find in all of baseball, and Eugenio Suarez has certainly been able to pump out the deep ball thus far this season. 45 home runs, albeit with the Seattle Mariners hitting just above a 200. And then you've got Julio Rodriguez up to 30 bombs, hitting at 265. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, up to about a 350 or so on base, 53 home runs. Dom Canzone has been solid in terms of getting on base, hitting at 285. JP Crawford about a 350 on base as well. So interesting circumstance here. I do think that with Seattle, especially now hitting the middle of September, that balls are not going to be flying out quite as much. So 7.5 or less in on the over 8 or higher to the under. If it is indeed Bryce Miller, minus 148 or better. Looking at the Mariners, plus 150 or better. The Angels, if it's not Bryce Miller, if it were to be a bullpen game, still probably would set the Mariners right around about a minus 135, but that would depend upon the circumstances. And wrap things up with 917, 918 on the card. The Buccos are on the road. They're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals as Cade Povich is on the bump for Baltimore, and you don't mess with the Johan Oviedo goes for Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is a underdog of anywhere between plus 120 to a plus 125, minus 142 to minus 150 is that number on Baltimore with a total of 8.5. The over is minus 120 and the under is even, and it's at the Orioles money line at a minus 136. If you're looking to lay run half right now with Baltimore, you're going to be getting that right around about a plus 134 to a plus 140. Personally, I would need at least a plus 148. So we'll see where this moves overnight. If we can get down to a minus 136, which I do think that there's a chance that we do, I would be looking at Baltimore for Cade Povich. A big reason why I can't set him as any bigger of a favorite is that he's just had some big time struggles at home. 5.16 ERA. Now that's backed up by 4.29 fielding, 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up though 1.5 home runs per 9, but he has really had his struggles, ironically enough, at home. At home for Povich, 5.96 ERA, and he's giving up over 2 home runs per 9 innings. That goes down to about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings at a 4.23 ERA away from home. And Oviedo has been actually relatively solid for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's posting up a 2.70 ERA. Granted, it's a small sample size of 20 innings across 5 starts, but he's up to 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, way above his career averages. Now he is giving up 5 walks per 9 innings, but in his last 4 appearances, he's won a combined 19 innings, and he has given up a whopping 5 runs, 4 of which have been earned. So you do have to give a lot of credit where it is due, and for Oviedo, he's backed up by a bullpen that has a few guys in Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Now there's been a lot of struggle and strife with regards to this bullpen, but now they've got Dory Moreta, who's been able to give you a few okay innings to give up the unearned run in the 10th inning yesterday, but he's posting up like a 4 ERA, but Colin Nicholas, 4.65 ERA. Colin Holderman has not been necessarily great for the team, and the Orioles, they've got a lot of guys that have been very shaky. Grant Wolfram, Yunior Cano, Diedrich Enns, a whole bunch of guys posting up an ERA well above a 4. Corbin Martin, that experiment failed for them, and for the Orioles, this team is averaging in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. I should say in the American League, more like about 3.8 runs per game when they're away from home. At home, this does shoot up to over 4.5 runs per game, but they are dealing with a lot of injury. You still have Gunnar Henderson out there giving you nearly a 345 on base. He's been able to spy for this team, 16 home runs. You've got Samuel Basalo, who's been able to pick it up a little bit more, but he has not necessarily been able to supply a lot of power. The guy that's really been impressing me, though, is Jeremiah Jackson. Jackson has now been able to supply the team with 5 home runs and about a 350 on base in his first 125 or so at bats. I like what I'm seeing there. Jackson Holiday, 15 plus bombs. He's been able about a 250, but likes of a Ori Mateo, some of these other guys like a Kobe Mayo, Dylan Carlson hitting a 215 or lower has been rough, but Dylan Beavers is giving you above a 4 on base. And for the Pirates, the team is dead last in the big leagues with 3.6 runs per game, and they are last in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. And you just have a lot of guys that have not been able to give you a lot of anything. Ji-Wan Bae, along with Onyo Cruz, Cam Devaney, Lovar Piguero, Jared Trollo. You just go down the list of guys hitting a 222 or lower. Alexander Canario. Now, in the case of Cruz, he's up to 19 home runs, so he's been able to hit for a little bit of power, but he, Andrew McCutchen, Brian Reynolds, lone 3 guys on the roster with more than 9 home runs. As Tommy Pham is now up to 9 home runs, he's been hitting a little bit better. He and Spencer Horwitz sitting in that neighbor about a 260, but in the end, I do think that for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time being able to put a ton of runs up on the board. Now, did semi-total at an 8.8 because I do think that for the Orioles, their offense is going to be able to come alive a little bit more at home, and if we could get down to a minus 136 money line, which I think we can. Right now I'm seeing a minus 142. I'll be in on Baltimore to go along with that 8.5 over, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Adam Rosenberg, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Otherwise, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball regular season into the postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous, but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.